Coming up on The Returned.
My physical body was on the road, being knocked down by this van. I was dead officially. My body was really mangled. I had internal bleeding and my heart had stopped. I kept on leaving my body, looking down at the top of the ambulance. I could see the teams working on my physical body.
Hi, and welcome to The Returned. The truth always follows you back. Hi, and welcome to The Returned, a place where we share near-death stories, out-of-body experiences, spiritual awakenings, signs from spirit, and the journeys of healers and lightworkers from around the world. Today, we sit with Anne Bayford, a psychic medium, intuitive, and a 3-time NDE experiencer, whose journey forced her to search beyond the surface of life and into the deeper questions of why we are here, what survives death, and what it truly means to awaken. Anne, welcome to The Returned.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
You're so very welcome. And before we get to the heart of our conversation, I would love to ground the audience in who you were, and did religion or spirituality play a role in your life or your upbringing?
Okay, where do I begin? Let's begin at the beginning, I suppose. It's been a long journey. Let's look at it like that. It has been a
Right.
really long journey. So, my family I was born into, like some people that we feel that we're the odd one out or the black sheep of the family. It's always how I felt. I never belonged to my family. My mum had been married 3 times, and my dad, my biological father, studied Buddhism and left when I was about 2. Then my second stepdad, Italian Catholic. So I was brought up with Buddhism, the Catholic religion. My third dad is Italian. He's a Jamaican Rastafarian. So I learned about the Rastafarian belief. Um, but it was it was a difficult childhood at that time. Let's face it. We were a white family with this Jamaican stepfather. Nobody liked it in the area. We came across a lot of prejudice at the time. And then sadly, he became an alcoholic. So we had a lot of domestic violence in the family. It was quite difficult at the time. So I was brought up in a very dysfunctional, violent background, as a child, and found it really hard to cope and manage. And I mean, I only learned now that I have ADHD and also I'm dyslexic. But at the time during my childhood, it was quite difficult sort of fitting in with other children. And so for me, animals were my key thing, that I would turn to the animals, and we had loads of pets. And I remember one night in particular, I heard a voice when I was sleeping, and I was a young kid at the time, that I could hear it, the voice going, "I'm cold, I can't sleep," or "I can't rest, I'm cold." And it was shivering. And then I woke up and I was like, where's this sound coming from? It was actually my pet snake, that I was starting to hear animals. And I didn't realize. I thought everyone could hear something like with animals. I wasn't too sure. So that was my first interaction with animal communication. But when going back when I was younger, I could see individuals walking through walls. I could see in other people when they may were going to die, when they were going to pass over. And I remember as a child, my mum would say to me, "You have to stop this. You have to stop telling people you can hit animals. You have to stop telling people that, you can tell that they're not going to wake up the next morning." And I didn't know at the time that I was just naturally gifted, and it was sort of frowned upon in my family. It was my mum used to say, "People are going to think you're crazy and they're going to lock you up." So I had that as a child. I only later found out when I first died, a little bit later on, that actually my grandfather, who was her father, was a psychic medium. And because my father had left when I was 2, I later found out that he was a medium and his mother was a medium who was doing platform in spiritualist churches. And I didn't know this growing up. So all I knew is that I felt weird and I didn't fit in. And I just felt there was a reason I was here. There was a mission, but I didn't know what that was. I just felt I must be here for a purpose. But I remember, feeling uncomfortable, getting beaten up by my stepfather, running away constantly. I ran away when I was a teenager. I was homeless for a while. So yeah, I didn't fit in. So there was an episode also as a teenager when I didn't want to be around. I didn't want to live because I just didn't fit in with anyone. And I remember I did try to take my life as a teenager. And I remember I was even, uh, sectioned in a psychiatric hospital because I also said I could hear voices. Which is ironic because today as a medium, I hear voices all the time. And luckily for me, I work with, doctors, general practitioners around the world who come to me and sort of say, hey, is this person schizophrenic or are they naturally a medium? And I'm quite lucky that I work with these individuals and, I can tune into the person that's sitting in front of me and tell. So yeah, it was a very funny background that I was brought up in. Um, and then I ended up meeting my partner and who I was with for 32 years, but the relationship was very narcissistic, very controlling, and I didn't really realize at the time, what was going on. Um, I I I knew I wasn't happy in the relationship, but of course, listening to my mom, you have to stay there for the children, and so I got stuck in that relationship, and I knew I was unhappy. And then I started studying, became a counselor, really came so far away in the spiritual world and started learning about science and psychology and everything else. Um, and I just wasn't happy in that relationship. I didn't have a lot of visitations or connection to spirit during that relationship because the way life was at that time, and I pushed it right out of the way. I tried to block away everything that I had. So I was unhappy. But the day of the first time that I died, and this is where we lead up to, was that I was working in a job in London, in the UK. I was constantly in my mind that I wanted to leave my partner, didn't know how I was going to survive, didn't have my own money. I was slowly building up, the job that I was doing as a counselor and therapist. And I was working in a center where elderly would come, like lunch club, and I would arrange and coordinate volunteers to go see them in their home, which I loved. I absolutely loved that job. The day that I had the accident was, I remember it clearly. I was in a hurry to get the children to school. I had a 5-year-old son, Nathan, and a 7-year-old daughter called Rebecca. And like all parents, you're rushing all the time. And I was rushing. I didn't know that I was going to die on that day. And sorry, God, my children are now 30 and 32, but I will never forget the feelings how I felt. But the day I took them to school, I rushed them, got them in the car, got to the school gates, and I just quickly gave them a kiss on the cheek, on the forehead. And then I was like, yeah, I've got to go now. Mum's got to go. And it was like pushing them away from me. And I'll never forget that and their little faces. And they went into school and I rushed to work. And it was like any other day. If you knew that, there's a big sign above your head, today you're gonna die, you treat the day very differently. And of course that didn't work. So that day I remember it was around about 10 past 2, quarter past 2, something like that in the afternoon. And I remember thinking that I had to hurry up and get the train to go to where I lived and where the school was. So I left the office, the community centre, said goodbye to everybody, and I was just rushing around. I remember I got to the traffic lights where the pedestrian crossing was in London, and I remember there was a couple of us ready to cross the road. And I remember that pressing the button and there was a green, you could hear like a green man on the sign saying that you could walk across the road. And there could the bleeping that I could hear as well. And I remember crossing and there was people that was walking in front of me. And there was an island sort of where you'd stand in the middle of the road just to make sure there was no traffic coming the other side. And I remember that day that other people had walked in front of me. And I remember standing on the island bit, ready to cross. And I could hear my nan's voice. Now, my nan had died when I was 15. She had looked after me part of my childhood when things were really rough at home. And she said, "Everything's gonna be okay." And I was like, "Huh?" And I was like, how come I can hear my nan's voice?" Because I hadn't had any other interactions since the age of, what, well, 19 up until the age of 35 or whatever I was, or 32. And I didn't know where that voice was coming from. And I just thought, God, this is my nan's voice. And it was a weird moment. And I was saying to myself in my own head, right, I need to post this letter, which was really important to do with a client that I was working on their project with them. And I was going to walk straight across the road. And if I'd walked straight across the road to post this letter, later on, the police had said I would have severed my head through the windscreen and there would have been no return. Instead, my nan was telling me, she was saying to me, "You've got to cross over, go get your newspaper," which meant I crossed at an angle. And so if I was thinking logically, I was arguing with myself in my head, but she kept saying, "Go get your newspaper, go get your newspaper." As I stepped out, and it was safe to cross, green man, there shouldn't have been any cars coming or anything. As I stepped out, I put my foot down, and as I put my foot down, that was it. I didn't remember anything from then. So what actually had happened was that there was a van driving along the road at 40 miles per hour, which should have gone a lot slower, and he drove straight through me. And as he drove through me, that I bounced off the side of the van and fell across the side of the road, went down on my hip. I'd fractured my pelvis. My foot had spun out of my ankle joint. I had 7 breaks in my foot, and my ankle joint was torn. My knee was fractured. My ribs were fractured, and I had internal bleeding. I didn't feel any pain. I didn't know my heart had actually stopped. I didn't know I was dead. All I know was what I experienced was I felt quite warm. I didn't feel cold. It was a cold day. It was in March. And I remember just landed, like I was landing on that road. I didn't know that was actually me until I'd left my body. So I had this out of body experience. And I remember looking down at my body, which I didn't even know it was my body at the time because there was no pain to say it was my body, my physical self. I remember looking down and seeing there was a crowd of people that was looking at this body in the road. And then next minute I could hear another lorry driver talking. I was in his cabin of the lorry listening to him talking. He was very angry that some woman had got knocked down. There was going to be an air ambulance that was going to come, and helicopter. The road was shut off. And I remember seeing a relative, an uncle that was in the crowd looking really worried and could see this body. And I didn't know it was me at the time. And then I saw my partner running down the road because someone had called him to say that I'd been knocked down. Um, and I could see all this happening and hearing this woman screaming, "They get her a towel." People were saying, "Don't touch her, don't touch her." I saw the paramedic arrive on the motorbike. I saw the ambulance come in, and I was somewhere else. So where I was, I felt very warm. It felt very white light around me. And I remember it felt that there was, how I can describe it, felt like beings. I would say like guides, and I would say, because of the work that I do now, I understand that. But it felt that there was beings around me that were looking after me, taking care of me in this space. And I remember that all I kept on hearing is that you are in the Hall of Souls. And I didn't know if it was the Akashic records at the time because I didn't have that information to hand. I just kept on, "You're in the Hall of Souls." And I remember being there, and I remember seeing individuals walking, well, they weren't walking, but they were gliding around. And and I know to believe my guide now, that had like a hooded cloak over his head. And I knew it was a he, and I was being shown information. Now, they pulled out sort of, it felt like a large, like documentation, like a scroll, and they sort of unraveled the scroll in front of me and laid it down in front of me. And I remember feeling like it was like made out of skin. And then later I was told it was the flesh of my soul, which I didn't understand at the time. And I remember it was like a blueprint. I was told it was like a blueprint. So when you're having a, you're building a house or a building or whatever, there's like the architectural design, but it was design of my soul and my journey and my past lives and, where I've been and who I am as a person and the mission I'm going to go on to do. And it held all the information there. And I remember looking at it and remembering, feeling it's really important. I must remember this information. And then there was like a large book that was open in front of me, because I remember it felt like there was a library around me. And I remember even as a kid, I always felt happy going to the library as a child and looking at books on Egypt or history books, and always felt so connected to it. And then I later found out that I'd lived many lifetimes in that period and different periods of times. And so this book was pulled out, and I could sort of feel as if this heaviness came out, and it was shown in front of me. And it felt like there were images on each of the pages that were being sort of like moved in front of me, sort of little images of myself and my life journey and telling me information about my soul pod. And I couldn't understand it at that time. I was so confused. But all I know is I felt so at peace, so calm, and I could just feel every sort of all these living beings around me. And I remember I felt that there was this strong feeling of feeling unconditional love. And I didn't know what that feeling was at the time. And all I know is that I was told that I'm being loved, that I am being loved for who I am. And I remember feeling as a child, it's like you have to behave in a certain way to receive love. And because I'd been in a family where I've never received that sort of love, I hadn't received it before. And I was in a loveless relationship for 32 years, so I hadn't felt it then either. But the closest thing I can bring it to, it's like if you have children and the moment they're born, that feeling that you're never going to love anything ever again, it's that sort of unconditional love feeling. Or if you're into animals, it's like when you come home from work and your dog can't wait to see you, or your cat, it's that feeling that you have. You don't have to perform for that feeling of love. And I remember feeling this sensation. It was like being in a large white cloud sort of thing. It's like there were no walls, just this white light around you, and just feeling this like you are part of it. And you, today I do, channeling, trance channeling with Light Council, and I know that's where I've been before. So it's all part of the Light Council, it's part of source energy, and I didn't know that at that time. But where I was being held in that safe space. And then I felt that they were always going to be with me. So while my physical body was on the road, being knocked down by this van that had driven off and left me to die, and I was dead officially, I think it was 6 or 7 minutes, that when my partner, my physical partner, came to my physical body, he placed his hand on my head, and I remember I could feel and hear what he was saying in his head. Like telepathically, I was picking up the information, but my soul was not in my body. My soul was somewhere else in this hall of souls. And the first thing he said was, "How am I going to cope looking after Rebecca and Nathan?" It wasn't about how much he loved me or missed me. And that was the moment I knew that I desperately had to get out of that relationship. Now, when the paramedic was there, they resuscitated me. And I remember that I wasn't feeling any pain off my body, and my body was really mangled and it had so many breaks. I didn't feel that pain because I was elsewhere, but the minute they paddled my heart, I jumped back into my body. It felt like I was spiraling down into my physical body, like on a water slide coming back down. And I was shocked back into my body. Um, and I just remember the feeling of the pain that I felt in my body. I had internal bleeding, my kidneys were damaged, my spleen was damaged, my liver, my gallbladder. I had internal bleeding and my heart had stopped. And I just remember being in so much pain when I physically entered back into the body. When they put me into the ambulance and driving me to the hospital, I kept on leaving my body, having that out of body experience, looking down at the top of the ambulance, and they kept on shocking me. And when they got me into the hospital, into the crash department, that I could see the teams working on my physical body. I had 3 sets of teams, and I remember I could feel their sort of sense of fear or adrenaline rushing through their bodies, but trying to keep me alive. Where I was having drips placed into my body and X-rays and CT scans. Um, and when I came out of there, I remember I was in ICU for a couple of weeks, and I remember feeling my nan was always by my side holding my hand. Now my nan had passed. She had died when I was, 15, but yet I was 30 something years old, and I could feel her there. And the nurse, when I came round, I said to the nurse, "Where's my nan?" And she said, "Oh, you've had an experience." And I went, I just felt that she was holding my hand the whole time. So that was the first time, and, for 4 years I was disabled, I was in a wheelchair and had to learn to walk again, but I did it, and my foot's okay today. A few problems, issues, sometimes, but I just had to do it. I had 2 children, I just had to keep going. It took 4 years to learn to re-walk again. Um, it was hard, it was difficult. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. It was a long process, but I needed to keep going, and, so anyway, the next couple of years rolled on, and I was investigating now what I had seen, what I had experienced. I wanted to know more. I knew that I believed in science and, being a psychotherapist, about psychology. I didn't really believe in this. I sort of blocked out what I'd experienced as a child. So this really woke me up. This was my spiritual awakening. This was really tough. This was like, come on and come back to us. And I remember I kept on having loads of experiences. I later found out the astral traveling in my dreams. I was doing that. I was so exhausted. I was meeting my guides. I was connecting with them. There was a lot of that going on. And I just then started investigating. So I started training. I started learning about everything: numerology, palmistry, tarot, psychic mediumship. I started reading so much information. I was gorging on it. I couldn't get enough information. And I was just fascinated with what was going on. I'd seen another world, and I wanted to know more about it. But so over the years, what happened was my lung collapsed. One of the things I didn't believe in was angels, and it was almost that the universe said, "Right, okay, to get her to believe in angels, she needs to have an experience." Um, and I've got a lung condition, and my lung had actually collapsed one of the days that I wasn't well. I had a chest infection. I'd had pneumonia several times, and my lung collapsed. And luckily, my daughter was in the house, and I remember I just couldn't breathe. And I remember I was just saying, "I need help. Please, is there anyone there? I need help." I was so scared. And I was saying it in my head, "Please, is there anyone there? I need some help. I need some help." And I really believed that I would be helped. And I'm not religious now. I'm spiritual, because I've had the background of Buddhism, Italian Catholic, Rastafarian, you know, my partner's Jewish, my mother-in-law's Quaker, my children went to a Christian school. I was brought up in a Hindu area. My friends are Turkish and Muslim. So I've had a touch of different sort of backgrounds. And so I just reached out and I just like, I need some help. And I didn't know what to expect. And then I was really scared because there was this big thump that came by the side of me. And I was like, "Oh my God." And I remember turning around and I remember seeing it was like a marble statue. And I remember that this statue, he had his wings that were sort of folded in, and he was bending over, and he was like, he's had his hand placed on his forehead and one hand on his knee. And he said, "I'm here to serve. How may I be of assistance? You called." And I was like, "Oh my God." And all I could think in my head was, "Oh yeah, I've really lost the plot. I've lack of oxygen. I'm like imagining now there's an angel by my side." And then he stood up, and he must have been about 30 foot tall. And he said, "I am Michael. I am here to assist you." And I was like, "I can't breathe." And I remember my daughter running up the stairs, and she said, "What was that thump? That heavy thump?" And I was just gasping for breath. I could not breathe. And she called the ambulance. And I remember he was by my side, and I felt, I feel tearful. I remember I felt like his wing wrapping around my body, and I feel because that he made this massive thump. I was sitting on the sofa in my daughter's bedroom, that she heard that and she came running up. If she hadn't, I don't know what would have happened. So with him, that was the experience, and I never doubted angels after that, because then I started working with angels, feeling their energy, doing some healing with angels, with clients. I became a Reiki master, and I started going down that avenue. That was the second time, and that experience of feeling their presence. And then the third
Wow.
happened. I'm
You had to have 3 times.
Well, it's like I'm quite stubborn.
Well,
So,
I guess so.
and but each time something's happened to me, I've learnt more, and it's
Mm,
like I've learnt more about myself, and it put me on this journey, this pathway. And if it
wow.
hadn't have happened, I would have stayed with science, because I always believe that you have to see something to believe it. And now it's not. I believe and you shall see. And so
Mm,
through what I have experienced, I've then gone on to help others. And that's why I was sent back. And so the third time round, I had to go into hospital to have an operation. And I remember walking down to theatre. It was in a private hospital where I used to work. And I remember holding the pillow, and I remember getting onto the operating table, and I remember talking to all the women that was in there. It was many women. Well, it was all women, and the walls were blue, and I was chatting to them, and we were giggling. And I said, "Oh yeah, no worries, I was fine." And I remember they put the needle in the hand, and I was going under, uh, and and then I went under, and next to me, I know it was in a white room, and I know he's my guide, and he stepped forward and he said, "You should not be here," pointing his finger at me. "You shouldn't be here." And he had a little tiny like flip chart in front of him, like, a clipboard. And he was like, "No, shouldn't be here." And he turned around. "I know she shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. They're not very happy with you. Why have you come back so early? You got to go back. You haven't finished. You need to carry on with your work." And I remember feeling, I mean, honestly, this is just a couple of years ago. I remember feeling like as if I was 5 years old, going outside the headmaster's office getting told off. I was like, "Why am I being shouted at?" And he's like, "It was with authority. That's how it felt. You must go back." And I remember he had these little gold rimmed glasses, and white little uniform, and reminded me of a dentist. And I was like, "Oh my God, okay, fine. I don't know why I'm here." And my heart had stopped on the operating table. So again, he'd given me information like a sheet of paper, "Go back." And I remember feeling in that space, again, it was white. It was like endless like space. There was no walls. And I was like, "Oh God, here we go again." But I was really close this time, because I remember there was like, I felt as if there were like gates or doorways or a door that was taking me to somewhere else if I'd gone any further. So I remember that, okay, I've got to go back. So I went back, and I remember my ears, all I could hear was bells going off. Now, I've trained as a soul doula. So as a soul doula, I worked in a hospice for a while. And the last thing to go when someone passes to the other side is their hearing. So I remember that this really touched me, because I came back, I could hear the bells going off and all the alarms. And then when I opened my eyes, the anaesthetist had her face to my face, and she went, "Oh my God, you really scared us. We lost you for a few moments then." And I was like, "Yeah, I know I had to come back." And this lovely woman that was sitting holding my hand, the nurse, straight as I came back, I gave her a message, and I said, "Oh, your son's going to be okay. Your mother said he's going to be all right. He'll get off the drugs." And she was like, "Whoa, you had an experience." And I went, "Yeah." So that was the third time, but only 2 years ago.
mm.
I had a massive seizure, and I had a brain bleed and a stroke. And yeah, and so 14
Wow.
weeks to recover. I'd fallen down I'd left my
Mm,
bedroom, and I felt sick. And lucky again, my daughter was at home, and I was leaving my partner at that time, and there was a lot of stress. Legally, there was lots of documentation, and
mm,
I couldn't sleep. I got up in the middle of the night, felt sick, left my bedroom, started walking down the stairs, and that was it. I didn't remember anything else. So what happened is, it was a very old house.
mm.
I'd fallen down 30 steps, and as I fell, I'd whacked the back of my neck on these steps and I've broken my neck twice in the back and I was having a seizure. She found me, she heard the thump, she found me, and then she got me on my side because I was throwing up. Um, Later on, when I was in hospital, they did a CT scan and said that I'd had a mini stroke and yeah, it had wiped out some of my memories of, sorry, it had wiped out some memories of me being a mum with my children. And I'm upset because when I left their dad only 4 years ago now, um, he took all the videos of them during their childhood. So, but my memory doesn't hold them, so I don't remember parts of their childhood. And so today, my children say, "Do you remember this?" And I don't. But the beautiful thing is that I have a grandson now who's 18 months. And so when I look after him, I feel so blessed I'm alive anyway. But when I look after him, I video everything. And what I have found recently is that some bits of my memory from their childhood is replaying back now. So yeah, so that was that experience. It took 14 weeks to walk, to talk, to I couldn't even go to the toilet. I couldn't even feed myself and my adult children did. So that was only a couple of years ago. Um, but do you know what? I know this is how it might sound is, but I am grateful for everything I've experienced, even from the child abuse that I'd gone through, to my accidents, to me dying, to me experiencing that narcissist partner that I had, because I sit here today, I bought my own house, I work really hard, and the work that I do with other clients, and I help them to move forward. And with my mediumship, I bring those who are in spirit forward and I pass the messages on. So if it meant me going through that hell, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And that's my life in
Wow.
a nutshell.
And wow. You brought tears to my eyes. And I'd like to say this. You are so strong. And I don't want that to be something that like I'm the strongest person and I have to be strong because you
Yeah.
never have to be too strong, but you are strong. Uh I've empathized so much with your situation. I too had a very similar upbringing and a very narcissistic partner, which
Mhm.
I had children with.
Mhm.
So I understand that feeling. And I know the feeling of how hard it is to actually get up and leave
Yeah.
finally. And then everything that you're going through.
But how
So
lucky
I'm
that
so happy
no,
you're here.
but thank you.
Mhm.
But do you know what? I feel that we are really good examples for those who are stuck and those who are going through hell. And to know that, we've done this and we survived it and we are not victims. We're more than that. We're like warriors. We're
Yeah,
going through this. We're strong, you know, but it's not about, because I'm a counselor and it's not about just that we're strong, like you said. It's having the courage to get up. And it's actually
that's right.
yeah, and it's in the fight and getting back up again that's where that strength is. And they can do that too, other people, but it's knowing that
That's
you
right.
can do it. That's the most important thing. Yeah.
It's a struggle. It really is when you're in it because there's a lot of details, there's a lot of feelings, there's a lot of guilt and
Yeah.
shame and everything that goes on with it. So I am just so happy that you are here
Thank you.
and your life is so meaningful.
Thank you so much. And so is yours. Because the work that you're
Thank you.
doing and showing the light to everyone now, it's amazing. Brilliant.
Finally. I'd like to go from the beginning.
Yes.
There are so many things I'd like to ask. But the first one I think I want to ask and really want to hone in on is why do you feel you had to have all these experiences? Not just well, I was sick or I had this, but what do you feel or have you even thought what that reason is for, or do you care?
I love this question because I know I needed to go through this. As a human, we have to experience certain things. It's it's not enough just to read it in a book. I became a counselor and therapist because of my childhood, but there was something else that was missing. It wasn't just about science or psychology. I feel the information I received when I died was information to say to me, when you come back, you're given this opportunity now to go and to help others, but to help others to feel connected. So I'm non-religious, I'm spiritual, and I know through what I've been through by all these stories that you share with everyone around the world and all those that have been through these experiences is to help people to understand there is something more. And I needed to feel it. I cannot preach something, and I hate to think I am preaching something, but I can't share information with people about something on the other side if I haven't experienced it. And I know that the reason why I got through everything, and even today, I feel so blessed, I can't tell you, is because I know I trust in God not being a religious figure, but God is that source universe energy. And I totally believe in that. And I
Me
honestly
too.
feel that those of us that have come back so that we can share this with everyone, that you can change your life. We don't have to be dictated or manipulated by the world that we live in and
Oh,
keep us small. You know, my mum was a single parent some of the time. We were poor. I would go to bed without any food. If you look at today, what's happening on the planet, especially now, and I'm so passionate about it, where
oh,
we feel in fear, we feel in lack of, financially, the whole world and everything. But I feel so abundant in the sense that I know I can constantly keep changing my life, my day from how I'm feeling. It's my energy that I feel so connected to source energy and this unconditional love. So I needed to feel it so that I then can use, yes, my I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, I'm a counselor, I'm a therapist. I can use all those skill sets to help my clients, but also I can use the fact that where I've been and what I feel, it comes out of me and helps them also to feel it too. Because if you haven't experienced it, how can you share it? It's not in a book. So that's why I felt that I needed to go through it myself, so that then I could then go on to help others. And I feel you had said something of camera about being a messenger, and I feel this is
mhm.
what we are. All our stories is about being the messenger, so that people know they can change their lives. Yeah. So I
Mhm.
needed to go through it.
I couldn't agree more, to be honest. I don't know why that was bringing me to tears. Listening to you talk. Your energy is very kind. You're a very kind person. Have you ever thought about why so many near-death experiences are happening right now? I know that just came out of nowhere, but it's something that came to me. And, because I don't think I've quite asked anyone this before. Uh, I know that we have more technology now, right? We have more technology, so maybe more people are being saved, right? What do you think?
It's interesting because I'm a trance channel as well, and I channel like counsel. And as
Uh-huh.
I'm sitting here, you just asked me a question. I already feel that someone's stepping in and coming forward. So if you don't mind, can I just let them
Mhm.
come in?
Please do. Mhm.
It's the timing on your planet, of course. There is AI, we are aware, and there is technology that is taking over your planet. And of course, it gives access to the videos and to the platforms of information that is being sent out. You see, people have separated themselves for far too long. The information that is being relayed to individuals is because so then they can become aware there is more to life than what they are seeing. They have been imprisoned. Humanity is becoming imprisoned in the world that you live in, imprisoned within the fear that they have been accustomed to. You see, it started many generations ago of feeling as if they are stuck. Humans are never meant to feel stuck on your planet. Their souls are meant to expand, but also have an awareness that as their soul is here on the planet, they are able to engage in experiences. You see, the soul has come to the planet to learn more about itself. It has to be housed in a physical vessel, as in the human, to feel, to see, to hear, to use its senses, and also telepathically. It is also to use all the psychic senses that you have on your planet. But this has been shut down on your planet, you see. There are many chemicals, there are many devices that are stopping the freeways, the frequencies, you see. It is so that all of you are able to communicate with each other. Yes, you have the devices, as in your mobile phones and your satellite dishes, and you can connect this way. But also, you can connect telepathically. How many of you on your planet have thought of an individual or a family member or a loved one, and then they have connected back with you using a technical device, as in the mobile phone? Today, there are more information being processed and has been sent out into the world because there are more of you who are returning back to source energy, and it is that they come back to your planet to share the information. It is so that there is light that has been shone upon your planet. This is important at this time because there is a sense of fear on your planet. It is so that you have your own connection with Source. It's not to divide you. It is so that you are and can have your own connection to Source energy. This is where you've all been connected to before, and this is where you find yourselves when your body has passed through. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do, and thank you for stepping in. I would love to know, and so would our audience, what do we have to look forward to?
Your planet is changing at this particular time. It is quite a difficult journey for many of you because some of you are feeling split. There will always be those that will live in a 3D dimension, as in the sense of your 9 to 5 jobs, and feel that it is about their buying them practical material items. There will be also those that will step away from this and realize "Hmm, love and life should be more simpler, you see, over the many years that you have lived on your planet, that many of you have got caught up in your financial currency, and this has affected many on your planet. You see, there is so much gain for those organizations that keep you stuck in a sense of needing to work like the mouse on the wheel, the mouse getting stuck in the maze. But there is hope coming forward. You see, many of your individuals on your planet who are putting out information about near death are aware that there is other energy there. There is more connection to source energy. It is about building your own individual connection to source energy. It's not that it's to be led, it is to be guided, yes, but it is to have your own source. You see, if you have someone preaching you from a book, it separates your connection to source energy. So, yes, the energy is shifting. There is a couple of rough years ahead. We are aware this is breaking down the old structures, but there is light ahead for many of you, as many of you are connecting to source energy. You see, when you connect to source energy, your frequency rises. Individually, the ripple effect of those connecting to source energy and finding their own independence is changing the energy on your planet. It's like going into a room, and when you walk into a room, if people are unhappy, you'll feel it. That's what's happening on your planet now. But those who are shifting, those who are connecting, those who are aware of the awakening are becoming more aware of their own strength, their own progress, and they notice that they can change their own world. So there is great hope here that we have for your planet. We can see this connection from the heart center, you see. It's the heart center you have on your planet been working from the brain and the mind. It's got entangled, but it's from the heart center to lead with the heart.
Thank you.
Would you wish for us to step aside now so you can have Anne back to communicate with, or do we sit here with you?
May we have Anne back for now?
Yes, of course. Oh, I'm so
Well,
sorry.
that was incredible.
I didn't know that was gonna happen. Oh gosh.
That was
Um,
incredible. Thank you so very much.
I could feel them stepping in when you asked the question, and because I do a lot of trance channeling quite a lot now, and I'm writing a book and stuff, and um, I've had Zachariah, one of the guides that's come in before, and I
Mhm.
met Zachariah when I passed, and so Zachariah is like one of them that is part of all of them that comes forward to say their piece. And I could feel his presence, and he wanted to address something, and I was like, "I'm gonna step aside now." So, yeah,
And he did it perfectly. I loved it. Thank you so very
you're
much. I
welcome.
didn't even know what to say, to be honest. I was so struck. I was like, "Oh my brain was listening and trying to think of a question at the same time." It was I've never had that happen.
And I
You got me.
and I never know what they've said afterwards because I'm not here as I step to one
Mhm.
side. So, yeah, thank you. Oh gosh.
That
Yeah.
is just so incredible. That is
Okay.
so incredible. Hmm.
They liked your energy. They
Pardon?
like they liked your energy. They've met your energy before on the other side. So they liked
Mhm.
your energy. That made sense for them to step forward.
That what did I thought about something when the astral travel. So, the reason why I ask about the astral travel is I think I do it also
Mm,
quite a bit. Uh, I'll just say, for instance, my mom passed away 3 months ago, and apparently I might be trying to find her because I don't know this because I'm sleeping, but last night I woke up in tears. So I have this feeling that I might be trying to find her. Um, yeah. And so I was wondering, how do you know the difference between the astral travel and the dreams?
okay, I love that. Um, okay, so with dreams, it's very much about sort of if we see sort of our brain as in a filing cabinet. So when we've had our day and we're looking through the filing cabinet for answers into questions, our mind has that, our subconscious when we go to bed sort of has that feeling that it's got to sort things out for us. It's got to, or worry or whatever it is. And so, yes, you can feel exhausted because you feel like you might not have had a sleep or a dream, whatever. So that can happen. And dreams, when we're astral traveling, signs of astral traveling, if people are asking me, my students, because I teach this, I would say to them, they may speak a different language like you did. They
Mhm.
may then also feel exhausted when they wake up in the morning because they've
Oh,
been
yeah.
working. And you've got such a heart of gold. It feels like you're very much about healing others, and it's feeling like you're here to heal the earth. And so light workers are here to heal others. And light workers and, the empathics are going to feel that they are going searching or going out there to help others. And something that has come up recently is that I was saying this to a couple of students recently of mine, that when those who are praying, because if you think of the globe and there's always someone going to be awake around the world, or someone's going to go to sleep, someone's going to be doing a prayer, that through prayer, that is setting the intention of needing help, it's going to be those who feel that they're dreaming, they're actually astral traveling to them to help, give them some information. So it could be somebody in a war torn country or somewhere totally, with a narcissist partner, that the person may be asking for help from angels or guides or from source energy or from God or whatever it is. But us light workers and the empaths who are in the astral fields traveling are there trying to help them. So it's like we are still working, we're not totally sleeping.
Mhm.
It's funny that, well, not funny, but how you felt you were looking for your mum. because this feels as if to say again, I'm going to repeat it because I can hear someone saying to me, she's just there. She's there by your side. So psychologically, it might be I can't see her, I can't feel her, I can't taste her, I can't touch her. But energetically, I feel that she's with you.
I think so. I think I do know that. Actually, I'll be honest, like this, not honest, but the other day I was working in here and I had been wearing a jean jacket and was frayed on the bottom. And one of my strings fell off in the hallway. And I thought, oh, I'll be honest, I was being lazy. So I thought I'll get it on my way back up the stairs, you know? So I did my work, I did that, I got up and I went to go upstairs, and I looked down to pick up the string, and it was now in the shape of a heart.
I love that. Absolutely love that.
Yeah, someone shaped it as a heart. There's no way that it
No,
could have fallen off my jacket in the shape of a perfect heart. And then as I went upstairs, you won't believe this, I had fed my dog before I came downstairs. And when I went back upstairs, no word of a lie, I took pictures of both. She had licked her food in the shape of a heart.
oh wow, how amazing is that?
Yeah, it was so incredible. It left the dryness of her food in a perfect heart.
Wow, I love that. It's so
Yeah,
lovely.
it was really interesting. I like to talk like that, and I like people to hear these stories because
Mm.
it gives people hope. Um,
Well,
because
don't
those are
be wrong.
very
Well,
plain
yeah,
plain gifts, or sorry, gifts from spirit, I guess, or
yeah,
signs.
totally.
Mhm,
Those signs, those messages. I don't know why I keep being brought to your candles behind you, and I don't know
mhm.
if one got blown out at some point, but I keep feeling that someone's gonna blow one out, so that might be a sign for me to look out for. So someone keeps showing me that, I'm like, "Okay, I'll just pass that on." But there seems to be something about our candle being blown out. If it hasn't already, there might be something that's g yeah, that's something to watch out for. I just was given that for you.
Interesting.
Yeah, love that.
So that, I get such a strong presence with you for some reason. And I can honestly say that I don't think I've quite felt this way with someone before. I'm
Um,
really honest. I feel very strong within myself, almost like a remembering. That's the word that comes to mind, is a remembering. And I feel like full vibration from my head all the way to my feet. It is something about you that is really grabbing me. But let's get back to you before I get going off, right?
I love that because, like, when we say, like, like-minded people, it's the source energy. You've been on the other side. You had a near-death experience.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
source energy that we're really resonating, that same wavelength that we're resonating on, and that's what's coming to the world. This is what we're here for, is to bring that vibration up. We're going to really sort of lift that vibration. So yeah, it makes so much sense. I love it. I love what you're doing in your mission. Love it.
Thank you. You know, in my near death experience, and this is something someone might take note of. I was out the other day with my husband, and all of a sudden, I remembered something about my near death experience, and it's been 8 years now.
Wow.
All of a sudden, because for about, well, a year, I have been wondering why I had that near death experience. I do know now why, but there was another piece of the puzzle to that why. And that why came through strong and clear the other day.
Wow.
I Before they gave me the anesthetic and then the medicine to stop my heart, I had died for 3 minutes. I was reciting the Lord's Prayer
Wow.
over and over and over again. And in my NDE, Jesus showed up.
Yep.
And I'll tell you that for years, and I mean, other people who've watched my podcast will probably know, like, I didn't know why he would show up for me.
Mhm.
When you're brought up in a non-religious home, that's the last person you think would ever show up for you for
Mm.
some reason. That's just the way it was in my head. Now I know why. I called him to come.
Mm,
And then he let me know that I was never alone, ever alone.
yeah. Oh,
So
wow.
that's my part, and that's part of the story that's very interesting, and I'm not religious either. I
Mm,
am spiritual, but that doesn't mean I don't have a relationship with God, source, Jesus. I have it all every day, not
I
just
I
on Sundays.
I abs I absolutely love that because this is what it is about live, eat, pray every single day. It's not
Mhm.
about go just, to church on a Sunday or any other religious building. I remember the biggest thing that I felt with the near-death experience, the first one especially, was I felt guilty in returning back, and I felt
Yeah.
guilty for not wanting to come back because of the children. And the biggest thing that I was told at the time was, "You are worth saving." And I remember that, "You are worth
Mm.
saving." And for me, coming from a family that I didn't feel loved in,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god." And I remember to this day, they said, "You are worth saving." And that touches me, and everyone out there is worth saving, and
Yeah.
it's so beautiful, so beautiful.
Oh, that brought tears to my eyes.
Um,
I'm a big mess today, aren't I, everyone?
I can see that,
Oh my
bless you.
goodness. It feels great, though.
Love that.
So, and you mentioned having these experiences as a child.
Yeah,
I am curious, and I'm sure the audience is too, how did being different affect you emotionally, as you grew up?
yeah. I mean, I
And how
I
did you navigate that?
I don't know if I did. I think I did it really bad. I can't add any credit to that at all. Um, I was just lost. I just felt so lost. I remember as a child in bed, I'd been sexually abused by my stepdad as well, so I feared
Mhm.
going to sleep at night. I absolutely feared it. But I know now that I actually traveled quite a lot, astral traveled when I was a child. And there was that part of me as a counselor going, "Oh, well, did I disassociate?" And I was like, "No, what I actually saw as a child." It's funny, I see lots of children now with their parents. And some have issues and they come to me, they know the work that I do. Because, I'm qualified as a counselor, plus I do this work. And if there's an issue, and I always will see the children with the parents, that I've discovered like actually the invisible friends are actually guides. So they're having their guides come along at a very early age. So yes, there is such thing, but we can't see it as adults. Directly we turn around and say we don't believe in it. It's a bit like, Peter Pan don't believe in fairies sort of thing. So that's where we miss out. And the dreams that we have of flying as a child, children will have lots of dreams about flying. That's astral traveling. So they don't even realize it. They're astral traveling. So for me as a child, yes, being dyslexic as well, having ADHD, which I didn't know back then, found it hard to concentrate, didn't feel loved. But who rescued me was my grandmother and my grandfather. I used to spend a lot of time living with them, or my mum, where it was quite violent. I was the one that used to get kicked. I was the one that got shouted at all the time as a child. I had a younger sister and older brother, but it seemed to be me. And I was given to my grandparents. And so for me, being around animals was the biggest thing. And then I started to learn that it, I was a zookeeper once upon a time. So I used to look after tigers and lions and polar bears and elephants. And all that because as a child, I used to turn to animals. So, I'm an animal communicator. I've been in magazines where people know that I can hear animals and sense what's going on for them. And this isn't just about me studying psychology and, as for the humans and then zoology with the animals. But that's what kept me going. I survived it because I was connecting with animals. I thought everyone could hear animals. I didn't realize they couldn't, until I started working at the zoo and things, whatever. But animals would heal around me at the zoo.
Mhm.
When I worked there as a teenager, they were healing. But yeah, it was a difficult time. I was having miscarriages. I've had 5
Oh.
miscarriages. And as a teenager, I was told I couldn't have children, which I have got them now. Um, and, it was hard. As I said, I nearly committed suicide.
Mm.
And it was literally, I remember being in the psychiatric hospital And I was like, "How am I gonna get out of this?" I think I was 18 or 19, and I heard a voice, and it said to me, "Pretend you can't hear us." And so when the doctors came round, and they started saying to me, "Are you still hearing voices?" I said, "No, I can't hear a thing." And I didn't realize I was a natural medium. So, yeah, it was difficult. But now I know all this and I connect to source, and I know I have guides. I know angels are listening to me. I know that I'm not judged because I'm not a fixed religion of some sort. I've taken different pieces of information from different religions, and I think we should all do that. But we have to have our own connection to God.
And where do you think we go when we die? I'm curious what you think. Like, is
I
there a place that's like Earth?
Right. Okay. Okay. Let's go with this. So I had a client the other day, no, student the other day in class that said to me, "Anne, do you believe in heaven and hell?" And I said, "That's been played out on planet Earth." Okay. I said, and when we pass over, my findings is that there is always someone waiting to guide them over to the other side. There was always. I've worked in a hospice. I've seen 11,500 clients around the world in the last 10 years. So from experience, I know there is always someone that comes to collect them. I know that when I have someone come in spirit, they show up as their life they lived. So that's really important. The life they live, they show up. So I have to bring through the personality of that individual. So their spirit is still that as they had a connection with that person, my client, they will connect to them. But when they leave that session, they go off and they merge with source energy. So it's like, I was saying about like a cloud, they merge with that energy. So they move into that energy field. Now, for my clients might want to know, what are you doing when you're on the other side? And I've had different information come in for every single client. One particular client said to me, "Tell them that I'm now driving that bus." That was evidence to give to my client because they were saying, "This is the imagery I want them to see." Sometimes it's them sitting on a bench, sometimes it's their favorite location. They give me that information, but they return back to source energy until it's time to come back onto the earth. If their soul hasn't completely learned what it needed to learn, so all the lessons. Now, with murders, because I work on a lot of murder cases with police, that's different. And also suicides. If someone has committed suicide, then they're in a state of they're in trauma still. They may not even know they've actually passed over. And one particular client that, actually had shot themselves in the face appeared to me, and I had to sort of almost become a counselor for them on the other side. So I do a lot of that as well. So when they come forward in spirit, I help them to move over to the other side, which is that
Mm.
space of whatever it needs to look like for them. So become whatever that space is. So if somebody passes over on the other side and they want to be walking through fields and poppies and seeing horses, that will be their way of where they exist at that particular time. So each person has a different existence of where they feel is maybe heaven or what it looks like on the other side.
So, what if I was a person that felt shame, guilt? Maybe I believed I might have sinned, and I felt down about myself. Might I put myself in a place hellish like? Could I do that?
I love that. Okay, we do that also today in our everyday world, don't we?
Mm.
Us living.
Yes.
So, working as a counselor, I see this, like your mindset and how you're seeing the world, you're seeing the half empty instead of half full glass. We do that every day here. We
Uh-huh.
don't need to do that on the other side. So our frequencies of who we are now today is what we attract in, like when we do manifesting, it's us believing and feeling it, and we attract
Yeah.
more of that in. Sometimes we say people are very lucky they attract that in, but it's their energy of how they are. Now, on the other side, I have been shown that you don't, thank you. Oh my God, just said you don't need to hold on to any guilt or any shame
Mhm.
that doesn't follow you because, thank you. They just said to me, what happens is that the physical body here of the physical human has all those senses and feels shame, guilt, love,
Uh-huh.
whatever. When the soul actually leaves the physical vessel, it's not feeling that when it leaves its physical
Oh,
self.
right.
So when the soul moves over, it's not feeling guilt, shame, or anything or else that doesn't affect the soul. It just returns back to source energy.
Mm,
So
that makes sense to me. Complete sense.
yeah.
Many people watching may be grieving. They also may be fearing death. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. What would you say to someone who was grieving or afraid of death?
Okay. So I've died 3 times. It's not hurt a single time. I've never felt a single pain, nothing. Because once the soul leaves the physical vessel holds all the pain, then the nerve endings and everything else. It experiences that. So once you leave your physical body, there is no pain. What I have come across those who've taken their own lives is that they don't realize they've been successful and they stay in a bit of limbo
Uh-huh.
for a while. So I've rescued souls on the other side. So they can stay in limbo where it's repeating like a groundhog day every single day. They're repeating that, they get lost in that until someone goes in to help them. And thankfully, I've dealt with about 200 suicides now. So when I'm communicating with their loved one, directly their loved one comes forward and as a 3D human, that spirit, they come in, and then because of the work that I do with them, we can help heal them for them to move on. So there's that. When you die also, as I said, we looked on my website the other day, I've seen over 11,500 clients around the world in 10 years. And loved ones have come in, whether I'm working as a psychic medium or a soul coach or whatever it is, but the loved ones come in spirit and they give the same thing. It's like you never are alone when you pass over. You don't feel the pain. Death is just the reality of the 3D world, which we believe is something that's, to be fearful of, but you then move on somewhere else. And
Yeah.
you can come back if you wanted to in another existence, of course, but also through the love that the loved ones have for you in the 3D world. You're feeling that love. I had someone the other day, he came forward in spirit and he was telling me, and some of the things he was telling me, because it was evidence for the person that was sitting in front of me. He had a heart attack and he fell down the stairs. So he had made me aware I physically felt pain in my chest. Told the person that's sitting in front of me, and I said, I think this is how your father might have passed. And he said, yes, that's how he passed. I said, but he's going to his watch. He keeps showing me his watch. Why is he showing me his watch? He said, because the watch was broken as he fell down the stairs. And I went, oh, that was his pride and joy. And I said, but he's also showing me that he was there. It was a birthday celebration, and all of you toasted him. You also cheered, and there was a picture of him on the side. And I hear this all the time. So those in spirit are still around to
Mm.
connect with you and to still be around you. So those who might be fearful of passing through or dying or death, whatever, you still can be around your loved ones in spirit. You can still be
Mm.
present when that baby's born. I had that at the moment with my sister, my daughter-in-law. She's 6 months pregnant. My mother-in-law is making me aware that she's been with her while she's had a difficult pregnancy and taking care of the soul. So death is just walking into another room. It's just a different
Yeah.
dimension, a different space. And it's as easy as that.
Mm.
It's not hard.
You, you know, while we're just right there, I'd like to know if you could give the audience a couple uh signs from spirit that they could go from, basically, that might be happening to them.
I love this. So I've been teaching my students this as well, like how to connect to source energy and how to connect to the
Mm.
universal guides and how do we receive the messages. So one of the things that you can do is, if it's an iPhone or something, you shuffle music, and you're like, I want to have a sign today, and then you shuffle your music, or you turn on the radio, or there's something you turn on some music. Next minute, you're hearing a song, and it may actually be a song that your loved one on the other side has sent you, in the sense of, well, that's what my father used to listen to, or that's what my mother used to listen to, and you'll hear the song, or there might be words that you hear and they're so prominent, your ears are picking up. And people could say, well, that's random, but why are you hearing the words that you need to hear right now? So it's not
Mhm.
random. Then maybe also I've had this with clients where they're driving their car and then I've said to them that their loved one's trying to reach out to them because the registration plate is saying something, the numbers on the plate is saying something to them. And I've had it where they've also said when you've been driving on the freeway, there's big billboard that says something and they're trying to say to you, you've got this, you can do this. Like buy that new house or that car or
Mhm.
take that job, move states or whatever. So that's some of the signs. Feathers, you know, people say, well, birds are flying everywhere. But how comes that feather landed right in front of you? What happened? How did that happen? Why did that happen? So signs like that. Lights flickering. I've had that with clients where their loved one on the other side that literally they've sat in a chair and behind them is a light and it keeps flickering, or the light bulb keeps bursting and it keeps
Yeah.
popping and doesn't last. That's another one. I had with a client that they had an extractor fan in the bathroom and it kept on coming on during the night. And I'm saying, they're trying to reach out to you, they're making it work. There are so many signs. It's the minute that we think a fault about our loved one, that's changing the frequency straight away.
Yeah.
That's the connection. That's like the dinner bell to the other side and they're coming in. There's so many ways of connecting, but just setting that
Yeah.
intention that you want to hear a message, you'll receive it. And there's so many ways that you'll receive it. Love it.
I can attest to that. The other day, I had asked out, like, "Where's my mom? How's she doing? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And what's it like there? This and that." But it was a couple days later, I received a song. I always receive songs. In the past year, my stepdad passed away, my mom and my grandma. So
Well,
I
mm,
have received so many songs that it is not like this is like you left your headphone in
yeah.
and the song is playing, but I hear on my right, my left, and above, right? But this particular song the other day was very interesting, and I have been working with it. And the words were a Carly Simon song, which was my mom's era, and it's called Coming Around Again. And alls it said was, I know nothing stays the same, but if you're willing to play the game, it's coming around again.
Wow.
I believe in love. I believe in love. Love is all I need.
And love energy is how they come in on that frequency. And
Yeah.
love energy is the source energy, the unconditional love.
Right?
And that's where we need to get ourselves
Mhm.
to, is the unconditional love. It's getting ourselves out of fear mode and, hatred and anger and everything else for us to be able to connect. So I absolutely love that. That makes so much sense.
I wish we could change in society in knowing instead of thinking death is the end, this is the worst thing that happened to us, how could we change it to accept it differently? Um, and to not feel so down and to not hurt so badly, you know? I wish there was a way we could change that and that people would understand that they're still here.
But it's interesting you just said that because I just heard that one, I just heard life is a celebration. And another
Mhm.
thing I just heard was that, well, if you didn't feel so much pain and heartache when they left, maybe you would have registered how much you loved that person. Not you particularly, but I'm just saying that
Mhm.
sometimes it's that separation that sometimes we need to feel that. And in a
True.
way, us bringing us back to the present. We had 7 members die over the COVID time, for
Yeah.
different cancers and other things. And it made me, like when even me, my near-death experiences, it made me appreciate life so much better. And
Me too.
so in a way, it's if we look at it as it's a cycle like nature, nature has to have its cycle. We have to have that rebirthing process. The soul has to have that rebirthing process. We have to have it, but knowing that it's not a full stop, that it's not we've been severed from our loved ones, but we can meet them in our dreams, we can meet them astral traveling, we can invite them into our heart. They're always going to be in your heart. You're never going to let go of them in your heart. And that's the place that no one on the planet can take away from you. So
Yeah.
that precious, you know, is priceless, their love, that you can hold it in your heart. They're always there. Always.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I could go on and on with you. I could. But for those who want to connect with your work, your services, or published works, where can someone connect and find you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going for a change at the moment in the sense I'm trying to write my book as well, but my website is www.annbayford.com and you can find my services on there. I run a regular Monday channel group where people can just drop in from
Oh.
time to time. They can connect with other like minded individuals, and I run classes too. You can also connect with me on Instagram where I put out daily sort of messages to keep people keep going and findings that I find. So messages that's again under Anne Bayford. I've been writing on Substack now, some information
Oh,
that's there, and I have my own YouTube channel too. I
oh, okay.
yeah, I do. It's small, but I put out information, just some trance channeling I put out in there as well when I connect to like council and other guides out there too. Yeah, thank you.
I will make sure I have all those listed in the description box, and you're not off the hook yet. So, I have a return signature question, and everyone returns with a truth. What truth did you return with from all of your NDEs that you would want humanity to know right now?
What came back with me that's like a signature across my heart was that I'm more than enough.
Oh.
And that's really important that people know they're more than enough.
That is so simple and so beautiful. I love that because isn't it true? Isn't it true?
Yeah. The world we live in, it's almost as if we're made to feel that we're more than enough, but we are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And thank you so very much for bringing your story, your honesty, your light here to us at the Returned. Your journey reminds us that sometimes the answers we spend in our lives searching are actually the very things that our soul already have,
Yeah. It's so
right?
true. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing space with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute joy.
And to everyone watching or listening, today's conversation, let it be a gentle reminder that life may be far deeper, more connected, and more spiritual than we've ever been taught or believe. Maybe the things we fear the most are not endings at all, but awakenings. And until next time, stay open, stay curious, and keep returning to the truth within you.